Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm senior editor Denton Davidson here with executive producer of 90 Day Fiance, Matt Sharp. Matt, this reality show is a phenom. People really get invested, and I totally get it because I just watched the first two episodes of season 9 on TLC, and I'm totally sucked in. What is the magic sauce here that makes this reality show sort of stand out and get people hooked more than some of the others?
I think, first of all, it's about love, right? Like love is primal, but I think we tapped into a couple of things in the show. One is that the show is incredibly authentic. And, I'm a huge lover of The Bachelor and that franchise. However, I think we were one of the first shows to actually tell real stories about ordinary Americans and their love journeys. And, also, this show is about, this journey with other cultures. And, starting, in, 2014, we launched the show. I really feel like we were on like the kind of like the cutting frontier, like the love frontier, would you say, of this whole new era of people, finding people all over the world, iPhones had just come out, a couple of years prior, Facebook and other social media places had just really launched and kind of gotten hold of the world. And this frontier opened up. And I think we are on that cutting edge and that frontier and telling those stories.
And you're following couples that already have relationships formed. This isn't a blind dating show. So one of them's an American citizen, the other comes from a different country. Right. And, we're following K-1 visa rules, and these couples have 90 days to wed before the visa expires and the fiance is sent back to their home country. Right. So this isn't a blind dating show, like I said. What's the casting process like for this, and how do you find these people that are willing to share this part of their life with you?
Yeah. Well, we originally started the casting. We said, how are we ever going to cast this show? And the first notion was we were going to reach out to immigration lawyers who worked in this space. Because as you said, we're not looking to pair people together. We're finding real couples that have already found each other, that are already in love. And so we figured I guess the people that are on the front lines of an American who's engaged to or potentially engaged to a foreigner is an immigration lawyer. And so we reached out to a number of them and just said, hey, give us a call if anyone comes in that's interested in potentially getting followed for a documentary television show. That was the beginning. And then now it's obviously we're in season 9 of 90 Day. We've had over 20 spinoffs of this show. And so that really is, the casting process is enormous. And we've got an incredible team that are looking for completely different stories and to tell a variety of stories, that is obviously cross-cultural. This is the most diverse show. I will say that you can challenge me on it. Most diverse show on television. We featured people from 51 countries at this point. We have subtitles. We have people that, don't speak the same language, have completely different cultures. So we're trying to tell unique stories every time. And when we're in the casting process, we're evaluating people based on obviously the personalities and their backgrounds and their stories, but also we just want to tell unique, fresh, interesting stories.
Well, the whole cast is great. I have a special place in my heart this season for Jabri because he's from South Dakota, and I grew up in North Dakota.
Oh, nice!
I have a geographical connection, and I think it's hilarious that his fiance is from Serbia, and she thinks she's coming to Beverly Hills.
Right.
Do you see that a lot, or where people might not have the America that they're expecting when they're coming, because they see Hollywood and that's or New York, and I think that's everything, but there's so much in between, as we know.
Right. Yeah, listen, I think opinions about the United States are probably formed a lot through movies and television, and those are the places that are most featured. And when tourists come to the United States, they want to come to certain places and go to New York or go to Beverly Hills or go to Las Vegas, and they have those visions in their head. So yeah, that's part of the show, right? Like we're following the journey of the foreigner to say, does this necessarily live up to what they expected or not? And in that particular story, Jabari and Moana are, that's kind of part of the fun. She shows up and says, "This is it."
Bilal and Shahid.
Nothing is anything wrong with the Dakotas. They're beautiful.
No, you know what? No, the Dakotas don't want to live in Beverly Hills either. So it's
right. Yes.
No shade. Bilal and Shahid, two are another couple where she's very disappointed because he's sort of testing her to see if she's a gold digger. I could talk about these people like for the whole interview. So I'm gonna move on a little bit. What are the biggest challenges that you've faced in terms of getting some of these people into the country? Have you had obstacles that you weren't able to overcome, or how much of obstacle was COVID-19 this particular season?
Yeah. So in terms of, getting them into the country, as we are, because this is an authentic process, we have nothing to do with the visa process. And actually we make a point of having a complete arm's length with that process. We'll check in and say, how's it going? But and so are there people that we had at one point said, wouldn't they be great for the show? And then a fiance went through the visa process and they got denied and we didn't feature them? Of course. But we're not part of that process. In terms of COVID, that was obviously a real challenge. We're shooting all over the world, and we're obviously in our localized lives, COVID has been a nightmare. And so you think about shooting a television show in all of these countries all over the world with different regulations. It was an incredible challenge. First and foremost, we wanted to make sure we are following all the regulations. We wanted to make sure the cast and crew were healthy and safe. And so we had a strict regimen of going through all of the regulations and had to kind of figure out, where we could shoot, when we could shoot. There was obviously a worldwide pause for a while. We had a lot of stories kind of built up, and we were able to edit those stories. And then when the circumstances allowed, we got out in the field. But I'll say, it's also, you're seeing it in season 9, COVID's affected the couples in a lot of ways, right? Like the time that they actually were able to see each other in person prior, during COVID was really limited. And so you've got some timelines there that, they've waited and they waited and they waited, and and obviously the visa process has really slowed down. So that's affected it.
What is it like from a production standpoint for you all? How long are you following them with cameras from the point of casting through the entire process? And then I'm also curious, how many crew members does it take in each location? Because you're filming all of these people at home in their home locations. So what's that process like to get your crew out to all of these different locations?
Yeah. So in terms of length, it really depends, depends on the story, and depends on, kind of where we've entered the story. We want to be there for the major points of their stories, but these stories sometimes go on, and sometimes we actually think we're done filming, and then we get a call and we find out something, and people get on an airplane and catch another element. A couple of years ago, we had a character, David, who actually we just featured in our Ukrainian special, who we really felt like his story was over. And that his love interest in Ukraine, he had really heard from her because, he kept showing up at locations and she didn't show up. And we had gone with him several times to say, I'm going to meet up with her. I'm going to find her, I'm going to meet up with her. So we followed him several times. It never worked out. And then we're like, okay, well, that's David's story. That's done. She never came. And then he called us up and said, I really think she's going to come. And we were done. And we had a producer reach out to us and said, I really believe we should just follow this, and enterprising someone, that we work with. And we said, okay, one more time, let's just take a very small camera and go. And of course, that story continued. So it's like, sometimes you think they're done and they keep going. In terms of the footprint we have, we try to keep it pretty small, just because we want to keep this really authentic. And I think that's our special sauce for this show, that America, watching reality television for the last 20 years, has developed a sense of when something's real or not, and they just kind of feel it, and even if they're not verbalizing that, I think it makes the content so much more engaging when it's real. And people always ask about this show, and I feel like our show has got really loud moments, but a loud moment can be a look or like an awkward moment in an interview. Like, it's not table flipping. It's because it's real. And I think that speaks to like keeping the crew really small and just kind of letting events play out.
And as we mentioned, we're in season 9 now. You said there's been, so many spin-offs of this series. Take us back to the beginning. How did this all get started for you? And, how did you get on board? Whose idea was this? And how did this all get rolling?
Yeah. So there was and I think it aired maybe in 2013. There was a news magazine piece on network television about Americans, everyday Americans who were, going abroad looking for, who had met someone online through various services, went online to go meet them. And actually, coincidentally, we're talking a lot about it now. The location they went was Odessa, Ukraine. And, it was a fascinating piece because it was people taking these incredible love risks. They didn't know these people. They'd never met them in the flesh. They'd only met them online, and even in 2013, like FaceTime wasn't what it was, right? Like, the iPhone came out in 2007. I mean, it's just amazing how quickly this has all evolved. And they're to make, they were putting kind of like everything down on the line to say, I'm going to get on a plane, I'm going to fly to Ukraine and meet up with this person. So we thought that was a great concept, and we pitched it everywhere, and we got rejected everywhere. And but we really believed in it, and we kept kind of thinking about like, what's the perfect angle for the show. And the original angle was more like the before the 90 days that we have now. And then one of the development people in my office came in and said, there is this K-1 visa. They come back and, they actually come to the United States, and, and there's a 90-day period. And if they're not married, they've got to leave the country. And we all kind of looked at each other and said, that's it. And then we got rejected again by everyone. And then I was at Real Screen, the television conference with, now TLC President Howard Lee. And I was kind of done pitching it. And he said, what do you have that you really love? It's like the show that kind of got away, that I don't care if you don't think it's for us. And I said, well, I've got this one thing I'm really passionate about. And I pulled out like a kind of like an old sizzle reel. I played it for him, and he said, I'm buying that. So that happened. And then it premiered in 2014, 6 small episodes. And now we have a lot more. And
you have like something over 80 production credits or more. I'm not sure exactly how many, but you have an expansive career. I'm first of all curious to know if you even have time to watch all of your own shows. And I'm also curious, how did you end up on this path just yourself? How did you end up sort of in Hollywood and on a reality TV course?
Yeah. So yes, I do watch the shows, much to my wife's and kids' chagrin. Sometimes I'm sitting here, screening cuts and like, Dad, come hang out with us. But they like watching them too. My daughter and my wife are the biggest 90-day fans around. So I watch them more than once because I get to watch them again with them. So how I got started, I came to New York. I was actually a page originally at CBS, and then I worked at CBS News for a number of years in the news magazine world. And I loved that, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. But I think I kind of got the bug for telling real stories and kind of like real life. And then I kind of moved on. I became a writer, and then I actually sold some shows and started my production company in 2003. And we've kind of, we started out kind of more in the VH1 pop culture world, and then quickly moved into the Discovery networks, and then moved into this phase, which we were really loving.
And it's a pop culture phenomenon. Lady Gaga said on Ellen that if she could watch one reality show for the rest of her life, it would be 90 Day Fiancé. And Amy Schumer, Pete Davidson. What is it like to have sort of all these unsolicited celebrity endorsements?
It's very cool, and I think what's what's so cool about it is that it's like got such broad appeal, that it's not only, we have lots of celebrities, and I read every week someone else saying, oh my gosh, I'm obsessed with that show or whatever, but it's everyday Americans. And so it's like this, and I feel like, that's why we're all in this business. That's why we do what we do, is that when you strike a chord like this, it's so fun. It's part of, not only is the creative aspect of telling stories, and which we love, but it's also, to be able to, have people out there really appreciating it, not just my parents who also love it, but it's even better when other people like it too.
Well, 90 Day Fiance is out on TLC. It's as fascinating as ever. To our viewers watching, head over to goldderby.com, make your predictions for the Emmys. Maybe 90 Day Fiance slides into that unstructured reality program this year, fingers crossed. And check out more interviews with top contenders. Matt Sharp, thanks again for stopping by and chatting with Gold Derby today.
Thank you so much.